Hello, everybody. I'm Patrick Wolf, and I'm a member of the Apex development team, and I'd like to welcome you to the first episode of Apex Office Hours in 2019. Today, we are exploring Page Designer, a deep dive going into the details of Page Designer, maybe some tricks you didn't know yet or features. So it's not an introduction session into Page Designer. If you're new to Apex, it's really highlighting different areas of Page Designers and functionality you might want to use to improve your productivity in Page Designer. About myself, I'm one of the developers of Apex. I'm based in Austria, in Europe. I'm a principal member of technical staff. Joined Oracle a long time ago, 2009. But before, I already worked with Oracle products for more than 25 years. My responsibilities within the Apex development team are the advisor, page search, application search. I was heavily involved in Page Designer, plugins. I'm the architect of it. And with other team members, we developed Interactive Grid. And if you want to follow me on the social channels, I'm active on Twitter, Patrick Wolf. The blog is not really up to date anymore. I don't really plan to speak about future plans of Apex, but just in case I still do that, you shouldn't make any purchasing decisions based on that. But that's actually all about the slides. I want to go now into demo mode and actually show you the different features in Page Designer and the Apex ID in general. So I don't want to limit myself just to Page Designer, but also include a few features which I think are important to improve your productivity of developing Apex applications. And I think one of the highlight features which we introduced in Apex 18.1 was Apex Spotlight. And Apex Spotlight is the new implementation of the search functionality we already had in place in the application builder. But Apex Spotlight is much more than just searching. Apex Spotlight is navigation and search within the application builder and within your application. First, have a look how you can activate it. The easiest way is to use your mouse. But if you really want to heavily use it, you should use keyboard shortcuts. And the keyboard shortcut for the Apex Spotlight is Control and quote. Super easy to activate. And I talked before that Spotlight is just not searching, but also navigation. And it allows you to navigate within different contexts. So one of the navigation possibilities, for example, is you can just type in SQL commands, and it will allow you to directly jump into SQL commands. So everything what you see up here in the menu, all the menu entries, you can also type in Spotlight to quickly navigate to that area. So like SQL commands, will immediately jump into SQL commands without having to go to the menu, search it, and click there. You can also use it to navigate within your application. So if you're in the context of an application, it provides more capabilities. So besides this menu navigation, you can now navigate within your application, like you're interested into going to list of values in shared components. You're typing in list or list of values, and you can navigate directly into shared components into the list of values section without having to go to the shared components, clicking on the searching for the list of values, navigating there. So a real quick way to go into different areas of your application without having to actually use your mouse and navigate there. The next area is, and that was already available before with the old search, that you can go to a specific page, like you want to go to page 7 or in my case, I want to go to customer details. And one way to do that is, as before, you're just typing in the page number if you know it. So it will show you all the pages which are containing 7. Or if you don't know the page number, if you have a big application, you just know the major pages, you can also type in the name of the page, which allows you to quickly navigate to that page in Page Designer. So I think Apex Spotlight, especially in the Apex Builder, so outside of Page Designer, is a super quick way to navigate around the application builder, drill into pages. And if you're in Page Designer, it offers much more functionality. So it is really context aware. So in the case here, if you're in Page Designer and if you open Apex Spotlight now, it will use all the metadata of your existing page to allow you to navigate within your page. So like in this case, I'm interested into, I want to go to the credit limit page item. I know I have to edit the credit limit page item. I'm just typing in the name or fractions of the name, and it will show me all the components which are containing credit. So in my case, I want to go to the credit limit, and it will highlight it in the tree. Especially if you have a big page, that's a super easy and quick way to navigate within your page without actually having to search for the page item, for example. And you can do that with all kind of component. I could type in a region name, for example. It's down here. I can also type in button names, like delete, and navigate to the button, for example. Or if you want to actually use it for searching, so in this case, I showed you how to navigate to different components which are containing that name. You can also use search capabilities. I'm typing in delete again. It will now show me all the components what we have seen before, but it will also allow me to search the page for delete. Very important here, it will also show you some keyboard shortcuts you can use to quickly activate that option. So if I press Control 4, it will do a local page search and will immediately jump to the page search tab within Page Designer and show me all occurrences where delete is used. So one tip I can give you, you should always have a look at those shortcuts, keyboard shortcuts. It will greatly improve the speed, how you can navigate within the Apex Builder, or how you can quickly navigate within the Page Designer. And Page Designer, and we'll show it later on, has a ton of keyboard shortcuts you should print out, put next to your laptop, so that you get familiar to those. Because a few of those keyboard shortcuts you will use all the time, and it will greatly improve this development speed. One feature you might not know about page search is, like here in my case, I can actually use that list of search hints or search hits as some kind of to-do list. Like I want to change all the delete occurrences to something else. And you will see that's a live list. So if I change those kind of things, that's also down here, it will remove it from the search hit list. So that's, for example, a great way to rename a button, to rename a page item. It's a live view of your metadata of the page to go through and work on that to-do list. If you want to search within, not just within your page, but instead within your application, you can still do that as before with the original search. So one of the search options is that you can do a search app for delete, and it will open the search window as you know it from the past, which will do real search across your application and not just of the current page. That might take a while depending on the size of your application. Looks like in my case it takes a little bit longer than normal. But it's just a regular application search, and as soon as it shows a result list, you can navigate to that area within Page Designer or in the shared components. So Apex Spotlight is really a great way, a central place to navigate your application, to navigate the application builder, to navigate the Page Designer, something you should really have a look at, and especially memorize the keyboard shortcut control quote to activate it and use it as a quick way to navigate around. Speaking about search, Page Designer contains other search capabilities as well. I'm just trying to remove a tooltip here. One of the search capabilities is in Property Editor. So if I highlight, for example, customer last name, and that's also an extension we did in Apex 18.1, that the filtering capabilities up here in the Property Editor have been enhanced. So like, for example, if I type in name, first of all, it will show me all the properties where name or a part of name is contained within the property name, in the group name, or in the label of the property. But it will also find me all the properties where the current value contains the search term. So that's also an easy way, first of all, to find a property. Like some of our components, like page items, as you know, have quite a number of properties, and sometimes it's quite hard to quickly find the property you're looking for. So a quick way is actually use the filter, type in condition, and it will show me the group with the server-side condition, and then I can go ahead and specify a condition, for example. So a real quick way to do this kind of change. And what's also new in 18.1 is that you can make the search term sticky. So by pinning the filter, it will keep that search term, and if you navigate around within and select different components, it will just show you this property you're actually interested in. That's, for example, a great way if you want to compare the condition between different components. You just put in this sticky filter, and then you can navigate around and make your changes, for example, and modify it as you want to have them. And you can always use the escape key to undo, or sorry, not undo, but to clear that filter. So another keyboard shortcut you should memorize, but it's a regular shortcut anyway for most fields, that you can use the escape key to undo this kind of, or remove that filter. If you're in Property Editor, you might also be interested in the changed behavior of the go-to group functionality. So what we did in, I think it was also in Apex 18.1, is that if you use the go-to group, like server-side condition, it will automatically collapse all the other groups and just open up the group you're interested in, just to give you a better feeling for the context where you actually are. And you can, with expand all, you can go back to showing everything as it was before. So that's another way to navigate within Property Editor to quickly find what you're actually looking for. And if you're already here on this code editor, I think another nice feature, probably not too many know, is that within the code editor, that's actually a quite powerful code editor. First of all, it supports search and replace. If you're in the area of search as before, we can type in credit. It will highlight all the occurrences of credit. You can also do a search replace with regular expression, case matching, and so on. So quite a few things. But those might be obvious because they're here up here in the toolbar. Another really cool feature which I find is that it actually supports at least basic code completion. So for example, if I type in p7 underscore past email and press Control spacebar, it will automatically code complete the page item name. If it's not clear what it is, if it's not unique, the name, it will show me all the available options, all the page items names which are starting with P7 cust, for example. And I can quickly pick one of those. The same is true also for package names, for table names. For example, I can type in demo underscore, and it will show me all the database objects which are starting with demo. Like I have a table here, demo customers. And you might have also noticed it tries to be smart to your coding guidelines. In my case, I started with lowercase demo or P7. If I do the same with writing something in uppercase and it's doing this code completion, it will automatically complete it as an uppercase with an uppercase name. So it also helps you that you don't have to reformat the selected autocomplete values all the time. Another feature of this editor is that it actually supports block selection. So with Alt and your mouse, you can select blocks of code. When is this handy? For example, here in this case, I have selected everything before colon equal, and I can now use the space bar to actually position it where I want to have it. So I find that quite a powerful feature sometimes to select something and move around, or it could also delete, do a block delete if it's necessary. But most of the time I use it for code formatting. If we continue with navigation, the tree, for example, also supports, and I think that's also something which not too many know, you can use the first letter you're interested in to quickly navigate there. For example, if I want to navigate to the test region, I can just type in T, and it will find the first occurrence of T in the tree and navigate there. Actually, that also works within your Apex application to quickly navigate to the first occurrence of your of this letter. Can do the same with button, cancel. So another quick way to navigate within the tree to the component you're actually interested in. And if we're speaking about this kind of shortcuts, I think another very important shortcut is the shortcut for help, for online help, for property editor. It's option F1, which shows the help tab for the current property you're working on. So like in the case, if I have here the create button and I'm interested into how an actual example code for the PL SQL function could look like, it's really easy. You just have to type in option F1 and it will navigate to the help tab and show it context specific to where you're actually in property editor, the help text. I think that's something also a little bit over, which not too many people are actually using quite heavily, is this help tab within property editor. Within the last few releases, we really tried to improve the help text, add more and more examples, so that you really are able to quickly know what we expect in that property. And if you think it's not there yet, please let us know. We're always interested in how we can actually improve the help text and where it's not clear yet. But like with the conditions here, we really try to tell you when this condition type is used. The same is for validations, for example. If I create a validation here with the different validation types, it tells you when this validation will pass and when will it not pass, like in the case of rows returned and so on. So something you should really have a look at if you don't know about the meaning of one of the properties. And I already talked a little bit about all those kind of keyboard shortcuts. And if you don't remember those, if you don't know them, just go to the help menu. There is actually a keyboard shortcut for shortcuts, Alt-Shift F1. But you can also just open the pop-up here in the menu. It tells you all the different keyboard shortcuts to navigate within Page Designer. And just a few to highlight. As I already said, the help option is a very important one, in my opinion, the option F1. Another one is property editor. So if I quickly want to navigate over to property editor, I can press Control and the slash, and you see it down here. It shows you that it's now in command mode. And if I type in E, it will put focus into the property editor. And if we have a look up here, most of the components within property editor do have such a shortcut so that you can quickly navigate to layout, to messages, to the rendering tree, and so on. So a quick way to use your keyboard to navigate around. Another very important one is undo and redo, but that's a regular one which is used in all kind of different applications. Control C to undo something. So as long as you haven't saved anything within Page Designer, you can always undo and redo your changes. And last but not least, the most important one is to run your application. It's option F8. It will save your changes and run them, and I will show it a little bit later on. If you're going back to the different capabilities of Page Designer, I think another very important one is that you can do bulk updates and do bulk selections. So you can use the Shift key and your mouse in the tree to select different components at once, like here. I use this 3-page items. You can also use the command key on the Mac, on Windows. Currently don't remember what it is, to do a single component selection. With the Shift key, you're doing a range selection. And then you're able to actually do a bulk update of your changes. In Property Editor, you will see all the properties which are shared by these components. You could also select, for example, a region, and you will notice the number of properties have been reduced to really just those properties which are shared across these different component types. And you're always able to actually make changes to those changes. So for these blue areas, it shows you that those properties are different between the different components. for all the other properties, it will quickly show that they're having the same value. And in our case, if I want to move those 3 page items into a new region, I can just change that property and it will move those 3 page items with a bulk change into that region. And you can do that with every property. What you might have also noticed is, and that's also a new feature in 18.1, we are showing change indicators on the component level, that those components have been changed. And it will also show a change indicator on the region, on the property level, that this property has been changed in that component, so that you can also figure out which components have been changed and which properties before you actually save something into the database. Page Designer, beside this bulk navigation, also supports that you can do drag and drop. So I can easily move it back in the tree to where I want to have it. That's another way to do bulk changes. You can also do this kind of bulk changes within the layout grid and move them down there. Somehow it's deselecting it here. So, but it should also work that you use bulk select and then drag and drop it into that region. Another way which I want to highlight is what I noticed from my interactions with different customers is that there are different types of developers. Some are using the gallery to create new components, like for example, new page items, just by dragging, dropping them into the region they are interested in. Or they're using the tree. And for example, in the tree, you can use right mouse click to open the context menu, and it will provide you different options based on the current context you're in. And that's probably a little bit the advantage of the tree compared to the grid layout, is that it's context aware. So for example, if I do want to create a validation or a dynamic action for the last name, I just select a component, do a right mouse click, create dynamic action, and it actually knows that it's a page item, so it's very likely that I want to listen for a change event and then do something based on that. Another way would be to go to the Dynamic Actions tab, search for events, create here something. So that's why I think you should really use the context menu in the tree to create new components there, or sometimes use also drag and drop in the grid layout to create them. But the advantage of the tree is that it's context aware and that you can better make use, or the page designer is better, can make smarter decisions to pre-default the component with properties you might think might be the right thing, so that you don't have to make that many changes after that. But speaking about grid layout, tab in the middle, I think that one also has a few advantages and a few features which I want to highlight. First of all, especially on bigger pages, you might have a number of regions and it can be quite crowded. So first of all, you have the option to go into some kind of a full screen mode, which you can revert. But another nice feature is actually the drill in capability. So if I have selected a region, for example, I can use the drill in just to remove all the clutter of the other regions and buttons and so on, and just show the page items or buttons of that region. And always able to go back to my previous state. So that's another really nice way to drill in to a region, to just concentrate on the layouting of that one region, for example. And grid layout offers quite a number of customization options to get rid of unnecessary space here, like I can hide empty positions. So it will remove all the different placeholders which are available where you could normally create regions for. You can hide show global components, global page components like regions or buttons. You can get rid of buttons and so on. So you should really have a look at this context menu to find out how you can customize the layout, the grid layout. And if we're speaking about customization, within Page Designer, you can make a number of customizations to the appearance of Page Designer itself. So for example, I know of that quite a number of customers are not using component view or layout too much. They're much more interested into property editor, for example. And what they do want to have is that the property editor is displayed next to the tree, because that's how they're working. They're selecting something and then they want to make changes in the property editor without having to move the mouse on the other side of the screen. And if I want to show help all the time, I can easily do that by dragging and dropping that tab into this other pane of the property editor. And now it's showing property editor all the time. The help tab all the time without actually having to press the keyboard shortcut to activate that tab. And you can do that with all the tabs which are available up here. It should actually work. And one small trick I want to show you is John Snyder's, one of our team members, posted, probably it's already 2 or 3 years ago, a short JavaScript snippet to actually get rid of some of the tabs up here. So for example, if you're not interested in component view, you can open up the developer tools of Chrome, for example, or Firefox. And if you search his blog and search for Apex hide component view, it will bring up this small JavaScript snippet, which you can use, for example, to hide the component view tab. So it's not showing up at all. And you can also do that for sure for layout or other tabs you're not interested in. If you should need them later on, you can always go to this menu entry layout, reset layout, to reset everything to what it was before. And if you're refreshing the page, component view will be there again. So if you want to remove some clutter from Page Designer, get rid of tabs you're not really using that much because you're just using tree and property editor, or are not interested in component view or layout, you can use that JavaScript snippet, which is on his blog, to remove that from Page Designer. But you can easily restore it. So with all the layout changes I've shown you, you can always go to the menu up here to reset the layout to as it was before. We also have a 2-pane mode. That's another option to change the appearance of Page Designer. Actually, I do like the 3-pane mode and customize it most of the time to move property editor closer to the tree. Another small feature in here is to show tooltips. As you might know from your developer experience in Page Designer, sometimes helpful tooltips can also be in the way when you're actually editing something. And if you are not really interested in those, you can just hide them so that they are not in the way again. But you can always revert that to as it was before. One last area I want to show you is when you run the application. So in my case, I'm here now on the customer details page. And we do know that some customers are having a number scheme for the Apex pages. So like the overview page with an interactive report or an interactive grid comes before the details page, like here in our customer details. And you can actually use this up and down keys to go to the previous or next page. So I know in the case of the sample database app that we haven't followed that numbering scheme, but quite a number of customers are using like 10 for the overview page, and 10 the next number is the detail page. So you can use up and down to quickly navigate within those pages. In my case, I will use the page selection to go to my page I'm interested in. And if I run the page, it will show me customers. And what I really want to show you is the developer toolbar. Developer toolbar contains this quick edit, which makes it really easy to navigate to a component which you want to edit. For example, I want to change the phone number label in Page Designer. I go to quick edit, select that component. It will automatically bring it up in Page Designer, put focus to this component, and I can go ahead and change the label, save and run changes, or it's a dialog page. Just have to move around. It's a quick way to go to a component, select a component, and show it in Page Designer to be able to edit that component. Another improvement we have added in 18.1 is in regards to the developer toolbar. If you have a JavaScript error on that page, like I'm adding here some not working JavaScript code, and if I run the page, you might have already noticed that we now indicate that there is a JavaScript error on the page. Before, it was most of the time it did go unnoticed, and interactive grid didn't work, or interactive report didn't work. So now you immediately know, hey, there is some JavaScript error. And if you open up the developer tools of your browser, it will show the JavaScript error in the console, and you can fix that in your page. Two last features I want to highlight, which are linked a little bit to Page Designer, is Application Advisor. You can access it here from this menu. The Advisor is a tool to search or to check your application or to check your pages for different kind of checks, like if your PL SQL code is okay, if you have page item references which are not working anymore because the page item has been removed or renamed. But what I want to highlight is actually those checks here which have been added in 18.1 is all kind of different accessibility checks. So do your page items have a label? Are the chart types accessible, and so on? So with those checks, you can really do a quick check your application to make sure that your application can be used by everybody. And I think that should be part of your release process to at least do a quick check with the Application Advisor. And one last area I want to highlight is all the time when we are releasing a new Apex release, we are introducing new features, maybe new components, and so on, or like new chart types, and the application upgrade can be really helpful to make use of all those new features. You can also call it from the application utilities. So every time when we are releasing new Apex release and you want to make use of those new features, just have a look at utilities upgrade application to find out if you can migrate your existing components to make use of new features which we have introduced. Because out of the box, we don't try to modify your application without that you know that. So you have to opt in that you want to have validation checks or other things, and run it on your own application. You will find out that it will probably show quite a number of upgrade possibilities. It will help you to modernize your application and to use features which we have introduced over the years. That's it from my side, from looking into Page Designer and features you might haven't used yet. It's probably time to answer questions. David.
So Patrick, we don't actually have any questions out on the chat at the moment. Just a couple coming in. One thing I'd love you to show is if you can just go back into Page Designer for me. One of the reasons I use the sticky filter the most is, for example, go to a page and put in auth, just in the sticky filter, put in auth. No, stay on the page, please.
What should I type in? Sorry.
AUTH, auth, for authorization.
Oh.
And then click on the, make it sticky. And then I just go next page using the up and down arrows. And I can see very quickly and easily when I've got a few pages to go through, you know, and the thing I love is it's going to stay with that same sticky filter, even though I'm going from page to page, etc. So, you know, it's very useful that it's not just when you're on the same page, it's when you're going from different pages. Okay. There's a question here about newer imports into older Apex versions, and the answer to that is no, Sven. You have to go from an older version to a new version only. People are giving me grief saying that you should use one of the page features to see all the authorizations across. I'm just using that as an example, Peter, and I know that someone else gave me that suggestion earlier as well. But one of the other things is you were showing how you can move the tabs around. You can also move the tabs from the first panel across as well.
Completely flexible. So yeah, you can move the rendering tab from here. I can put search on the other side or property editor on that side. Completely flexible as you want to have it.
So one of the questions I've got coming in now is how do you copy regions with all their components between pages? So can you just go to page 7 or something that has lots of items?
Reset. So if you copy a region, for example, copy to another page, it will show you the option if you want to copy like the items to that page, if you should include it or not.
And the same goes for buttons, obviously, if you've got buttons on that region.
Here in this case, the region doesn't have a button. That's why it's not providing that option. Yep.
Okay. So I think that just about that wraps up if anyone's got any additional questions, then please ask them on the Apex World Slack channel or the discussion forum, and we'll happily answer them there. In 2 weeks' time, we will be having another office hours session on accessibility by Anthony Rayner. I'll have the details up on office hours later today. So please subscribe to our office hours channel so you get reminders when the next one's coming up. So thank you very much for your session today, Patrick. And thank you everyone for attending. And with that, we will shut down the session.
See you, bye.